Thank you, Dr. Jaya, and thank you, Dr. Piyush, for inviting me to this session. I'll be talking about some basic concepts of PRK, LASIK, and SMILE, and the current evidence. As much, yeah,
स्लाइड शो कर लीजिए।
उत्कर्ष कुछ नहीं आ रहा, स्लाइड आगे नहीं बढ़ रही है।
So you to make it full screen first.
Full screen हो गया।
Slideshow.
So as Dr. Ramendra has very elaborately described about PRK, it is a laser refractive procedure used to correct these refractive errors. Was developed by Dr. Stephen Trockel and got an FDA approval in 1996. Here the indications are up till 12 diopters of myopia, and it can treat an astigmatism up to 6 diopters and hyperopia up to 5 diopters. As she's just said, the higher chances of regression and haze with higher errors, and reasons why PRK may be desirable over other surgical options are it's not a flap-based surgery. These patients who are reluctant to undergo a flap-based procedure, it's a better procedure from them. It's better procedure in certain professions like athletes, pilots, army personnel, boxers, swimmers, and of course in where LASIK is contraindicated, like especially in thinner corneas, epithelial anterior basement membrane dystrophies, history of recurrent corneal erosions, anterior deplaced scleral buckles after post-RD surgery, and very flat and very steep corneas. It is a procedure of choice also as an enhancement procedure to correct residual refractive errors following refractive surgery itself, following SMILE, following LASIK, and following cataract surgery, especially after multifocal IOLs. So when the patients are not very much satisfied, absolute contraindications remain the same as of all of the refractive surgeries, especially the keratoconus and atretic disease of the cornea, uncontrolled dry eyes, blepharitis, extreme vascularization, and active connective tissue disorders. So these are some of the relative contraindications. If cornea is mildly abnormal corneal topography, some may do PRK with a collagen cross-linking also, and some have done with significant irregular astigmatism, a healed herpes simplex virus keratitis, uncontrolled controlled diabetes, and drugs like amiodarone, isotretinoin, which is a vitamin A prodrug. Long-term visual outcomes after PRK are excellent. In a study with a 15 years follow-up, 55% of the eyes were within plus minus 1 diopters, and 85% of the eyes at 15 years of the study were within plus minus 2 diopters. If you compare it with LASIK, reviews have demonstrated there is no differences in long-term efficacy, accuracy, or adverse outcomes, any eyes which were lost due to mild to moderate myopia. And though LASIK has a shorter recovery time with lesser postoperative pain, there is a higher incidence of haze in PRK than LASIK. There is no comparison for hyperopia in literature for PRK versus LASIK. Mitomycin C is most of the time applied along with I apply mitomycin C in each and every case, whether it's 1 diopter or it's 6 diopters. I personally have done up till 7.5 diopters with the mitomycin C application for almost 35 to 40 seconds, and till now all my patients are doing very well. I have not seen even a single haze so far in PRK. Mitomycin C acts by preventing corneal haze, and complications, infection always remain a risk. Sterile infiltrates are often seen sometimes in post-PRK. Decentrations, erosions, and persistent refractive error may be found. Ectasia it's very rare following PRK. One study which have studied all the ectasias post-PRK, they noted that all the patients were having a pre-existing underlying keratoconus. Next. LASIK is laser assisted in situ keratomelia. I'll enumerate the basic things. It's a widely accepted procedure as one of the best elective surgical procedure performed on the human body. got an FDA approval in 1998, and it's FDA approved up till -14 diopters of myopia and hyperopia and astigmatism up to 6 diopters, has a post-operative dissatisfaction rate of only 1%. That's a very big thing for any procedure. And another marker of post-operative success in visual acuity was recorded in PROWL studies. PROWL is patient-reported outcomes with LASIK. PROWL 1 studies found that uncorrected visual acuity of 20/20 are better in more than 97.5% of the eyes. Basics, if you talk about the basics, it consists of 2 steps: stromal flap creation and tissue laser ablation, stromal ablation. Average laser flaps are around 100 to 110 microns, and a common residual bed thickness is around 300 microns left, with more aggressive surgeons approaching 250 microns. Amongst the LASIK advances, wavefront optimized and topography guided LASIKs have come recently. In wavefront guided LASIK, wavefront aberrometers, they allow to pass a beam of light through the eye, and then with the beam reflects back from the cornea. It is taken, and that is the patient's wavefront. This wavefront guided LASIK has an advantage that it can treat higher order aberrations like coma, trifile, and spherical aberrations. In wavefront optimized LASIK, this theoretically bypasses the individual's aberrometry with the goal of creating wavefront using age-matched knot and algorithms. This wavefront optimized LASIK helps to maintain corneal asphericity, that is prolate shape of the cornea, and minimizes induced spherical laser aberrations. Topography guided LASIK Contura has become so popular these days. It collects corneal data from the cornea using a Placidus disc topographer, and it measures the irregular corneas. LASIK contraindications, I'll skip, you know all. It's time to smile. So SMILE is an acronym for small incision lenticular extraction, and more than 3 million procedures have been performed worldwide so far. It uses a low energy femtosecond laser and is developed by Carl Zeiss. SMILE got an FDA approval in 2016. It's approved for 1 to 10 diopters of myopia and up to 3 diopters of cylindrical power minus for myopia and myopic astigmatism, with a total spherical equivalent to 11 diopters. SMILE combines the advantages of PRK and RK, and it is a flapless procedure. It has a quick LASIK-like results with an additional benefits of no post-operative restrictions. These are the indications of SMILE within -5 to 12 diopters of spherical equivalent and 5 diopters. It can treat up to 5 diopters of astigmatism, but though FDA approval is still 3 diopters of astigmatism. Absolute contraindications remain the same for all keratorefractive surgeries. This is the video. Should skip the video. I'll show you the video in the last. The current evidence of the SMILE shows that it is equally efficacious, equally predictable, and stable. So many studies have done so far. A 5-year follow-up retrospective study showed that SMILE and LASIK in correcting myopia and myopic astigmatism, both were equal. In another study, SMILE provided a predictable and stable correction of moderate to high myopia, and there were no changes in spherical ligament post-op up till 4 years. Again, all these studies, they compare SMILE with LASIK, and they are found SMILE to be equally good to LASIK. Advantages of LASIK, advantages of SMILE, it gives a smaller incision, it's flapless, no intraoperative or postoperative flap problems. SMILE may be a potentially better biomechanically stable procedure, because SMILE spares the anterior corneal lamellar tissue, especially if it is done within 130, less than the cap, you keep it more than 130 microns, you spare the anterior lamellar tissue, and it makes the cornea stronger. A study again which has looked into the corneal hysteresis and corneal resistance factor found that SMILE preserved the corneal biomechanical strength better than LASIK, and it has a definite advantage in preserving the nerves of the cornea, and fewer dry eye symptoms are experienced with SMILE as compared to LASIK. There are even higher induced aberrations, though both the procedures LASIK and SMILE induce higher order aberrations. And after 3 months, it has been studied that higher order aberrations are lesser in SMILE as compared to LASIK. Since it's single platform surgery, you don't have to shift patients from femto laser to excimer laser. And effective functional zone, post-operatively, it has been measured that it's significantly larger in SMILE as compared to femtosecond laser based surgery. Some disadvantages are there. It can't correct more than 5 diopters of astigmatism, and still till now there is absence of any mechanism to compensate for cyclotorsion. Though in the newer versions of SMILE, we would be getting that also. If there is a gross decentration during docking, it may lead to visually disabling aberrations. And visual recovery in SMILE is a bit slower and as compared to femto-LASIK, though finally, after about a week or so, both are equal, and patients have to really be counseled about any to prevent any unnecessary anxiety. Amongst the complications, may I continue? Hello? Hello?
Yes, I think you can continue.
May I continue?
Dr. Ritin has not joined.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes, we have time.
So amongst the SMILE complications, first thing which I saw that you have a slightly longer learning curve. Until you do around 5-10 cases, you can encounter complications. There could be suction loss during the procedure, a decentration of the or treatment, incision tear, a cap perforation, retained denticule with a difficult dissection, opaque bubble layer created by the femtosecond laser, uncut areas of the lenticules which are called black spots, lenticule adherence to the cap. If you separate the lenticule posterior first and then the anterior part of the lenticule, it gets attached to the cap, then it's difficult to remove it. There could be a bleeding at the incision sites and epithelial defects. All these complications, though very rare, they have been reported in 1% of the patient, which is pretty high figure, I suppose. But still, it is a new procedure. Surgeons are learning these things. Amongst the post-operative complications, DLK, it's a bit higher in the SMILE. Ectasia, though it's very, very rare. Post-operative dry eye are rare, and as compared to LASIK, undercorrections and overcorrections may happen. Infection may happen to any surgery. Situations where SMILE are preferred over LASIK, especially those people who want to play contact sports, who want to go into army, who are boxers, who are swimmers, any patients who have worn contact lenses for a prolonged years of time because they are prone to dry eye, patients with mild dry eye disease, and SMILE has shown a higher stability in high myopia versus LASIK. Situations in where PRK and LASIK is preferred over SMILE. As Dr. Ramendra has elaborated, epithelial basement membrane dystrophy, opacity is because a femtosecond lesion won't pass through the opacity. A microkeratome can pass through an opacity. Hyperopes, SMILE is not able to do hyperopic correction till now. Patients with higher wavefront aberrations and topographic irregularities. Here, wavefront guided LASIK is supposedly better as compared to SMILE. And it's a preferred choice in large angle kappas because in these patients, there can be a chance of cone decentration during SMILE docking. Extra procedures can be combined with all of the three things. It can be combined with the PRK, it can be combined with LASIK or SMILE. And still, current literature suggests that refractive procedures and simultaneous cross-linking is generally safe, but it does not deliver better results if you are doing it with the refractive procedures alone. And still unclear about the benefits of combining with cross-linking. Long-term studies are needed to evaluate these beneficial results of cross-linking with these procedures, and more research is needed to titrate the UVA irradiation settings for the optimal outcome. Thank you.